They never told you this part of the truth. They taught you how to behave, how to smile, how to stay in line, but they never warned you what obedience would cost you. From the moment you could understand words, you were trained to soften yourself, to make others comfortable, to mistake silence for maturity. And by the time you became an adult, that training had already carved a cage around your mind. Right now, as you're listening to this, there is a quiet resistance inside you. A part of you wants to deny it, to say this doesn't apply to you, that you're different, that you're doing fine. But another part of you knows exactly what this is pointing at. That part is tired, not physically, but deeply, mentally exhausted from holding itself back. You felt it in rooms where your voice disappeared. Moments where you had something sharp, valuable, and real to say, but swallowed it to keep the peace. You've watched less capable people move ahead of you, not because they were better, but because they were louder and less restrained. And every time it happened, you told yourself a story to survive it. You said you were being patient. You said timing would fix it. You said staying calm was strength. But what you were really doing was shrinking to fit a world that rewards force, not fairness. The truth is uncomfortable, and that's why most people never face it. Power does not come to those who wait politely for recognition. It moves toward those who assume it belongs to them before anyone agrees. And the longer you avoid this truth, the longer you stay invisible. Look back at your own life carefully. Notice how often you've explained yourself when you didn't need to. How often you've apologized just for existing in someone else's space. How often you've accepted disrespect because confronting it felt risky. That hesitation was never kindness. It was conditioning, a system installed so early and reinforced so often that you began to call it your personality. But personalities can be unlearned. You were taught that being agreeable would keep you safe, that if you didn't upset anyone, you wouldn't be targeted, that if you stayed useful, you'd stay included. But safety built on submission is fragile, and it collapses the moment you stop serving. Notice how people react when you hesitate. They lean in, take more, push further. Notice how differently they behave around someone who doesn't rush to explain or apologize. That difference is not charisma, it's control. Control begins when you stop reacting automatically, when you allow silence to do the work instead of filling it with nervous words, when you let discomfort exist without trying to rescue everyone from it. That's when the balance starts to shift. Most people never realize this because they're too busy performing. Performing kindness, performing patience, performing humility. They confuse being liked with being respected, not knowing those two things rarely coexist. Respect grows in tension, not comfort. This is where the real separation begins. Between those who continue living as background noise and those who decide to become unavoidable. Between those who seek permission and those who quietly take space. Between those who fear judgment and those who understand its irrelevance. You don't need to become aggressive. You don't need to become cruel. You need to become immovable, calm, deliberate, and unresponsive to manipulation. The moment you stop explaining yourself, people start listening differently. The moment you stop chasing approval, people start adjusting their behavior. The moment you stop softening your truth, your presence gains weight. And that weight is felt even when you say nothing. This first step isn't about action yet. It's about recognition, seeing the invisible rules that shaped you and deciding they no longer apply. Because once you see the cage clearly, you can never fully live inside it again. This is not motivation. This is exposure. And exposure changes everything. You were taught to believe loyalty is common and goodwill is the default, but the world does not run on generosity. People smile, nod, and clap for you while silently measuring themselves against your progress. Every win you announce forces others to confront what they have not achieved. That discomfort is where envy is born, and envy never stays quiet for long. Most people are not evil, but almost everyone is self-interested. They want success, comfort, recognition, and security, and they want it with the least resistance possible. When your growth threatens their position, their support becomes conditional. Not because you did something wrong, but because your existence reminds them of their own limits. Watch closely when you share good news. There's often a pause before the congratulations, a delay that lasts less than a second but reveals everything. That pause is comparison calculating, insecurity speaking, and ego defending itself. The smile that follows is learned behavior, not instinct. The same people who cheer for you in public will question you in private. They will disguise doubt as concern and jealousy as advice. They will say things like "be careful" or "don't change" to slow your momentum. What they really mean is "don't outgrow me." This is why betrayal feels shocking only the first few times. After that, patterns become visible and reactions lose their sting. You realize people rarely turn against you suddenly. They turn when your progress becomes undeniable. Trust, when given freely, becomes a liability. Oversharing turns your plans into entertainment for people who secretly hope you fail. The more you explain yourself, the more material you hand to silent critics. Power moves quietly, not because it is afraid, but because it is strategic. Strong individuals do not announce intentions. They let results speak so loudly that doubt becomes irrelevant. They understand that anticipation invites interference. Execution invites respect. When you stop expecting fairness, clarity replaces confusion. You no longer ask why someone switched sides or changed behavior. You understand that loyalty without alignment is temporary. Interest always comes before integrity for the unprepared mind. This knowledge does not make you bitter. It makes you precise. You stop personalizing behavior that was never about you. You start placing people where they belong, not where you wish they were. Silence becomes a filter. Distance becomes protection. Observation becomes your advantage. You move forward while others remain stuck managing their emotions. The moment you accept human nature as it is, not as it should be, you gain leverage. You stop seeking reassurance and start building position. You stop explaining yourself and start letting outcomes define you. That is when people realize you're no longer predictable. Unpredictability unsettles those who rely on control. They cannot read you, rush you, or manipulate access to you. Your calm becomes intimidating because it is informed. You're no longer surprised by behavior, only prepared for it. From this point forward, you do not react to envy. You do not confront it, correct it, or complain about it. You let it expose itself through actions and timing, and you adjust accordingly without announcement. By now, something inside you has shifted, even if you don't fully admit it yet. The old instinct to explain yourself, to soften your edges, to make sure everyone feels comfortable around you is starting to feel foreign. You're noticing how often people test boundaries, how casually they take, how quickly they assume your compliance. And the moment you stop feeding that assumption, the entire dynamic changes in your favor. Power doesn't arrive loudly here. It arrives quietly, through your refusal to play the role they assigned you. Most people never realize this truth because they are too busy managing reactions instead of controlling position. They think power comes from convincing others, from being understood, from proving intentions. But real authority is built when you stop needing permission to stand where you stand. The less you explain, the more people lean in, trying to read you. Silence forces others to project their fears, and those fears reveal everything you need to know. At this stage, you begin to understand a dangerous rule of human behavior. People respect what they cannot easily predict or manipulate. When your reactions are delayed, when your emotions are contained, when your approval is uncertain, people recalibrate around you. They watch their words, adjust their posture, and measure their actions more carefully. This isn't because you threaten them, but because uncertainty makes humans cautious. Think about every environment you walk into as a silent negotiation of energy and frame. Most people enter asking, "How do I fit in here?" without realizing they just surrendered leverage. You enter differently now, not trying to dominate, not trying to impress, but refusing to shrink. You move at your own pace, respond on your own timing, and let others adapt to you. That subtle shift alone rewires how you are treated. Here's the uncomfortable truth most people avoid. Respect is rarely given for kindness alone. Kindness without boundaries reads as availability, and availability invites consumption. When people sense that access to you is unlimited, they stop valuing it. But when your time, attention, and approval are controlled, every interaction carries weight. Scarcity doesn't make you cruel, it makes you significant. This is where psychological gravity forms. You stop filling silences, stop rescuing conversations, stop smoothing tension that isn't yours to fix. Awkward moments become tools rather than threats. While others scramble to restore comfort, you remain still, observing who breaks first. The one who rushes to relieve discomfort always reveals weakness, and the one who can sit inside it controls the tone. Notice how leadership naturally bends toward those who don't chase acceptance. They don't beg to be heard. They speak when it matters. They don't argue every point. They choose battles that change outcomes. They don't explain every decision. They let results justify them. Over time, people stop questioning their authority because questioning it feels unnecessary. At this level, you no longer need to announce strength or prove confidence. Your posture, timing, and restraint communicate more than words ever could. People feel your presence before you speak, not because you are aggressive, but because you are grounded. You are no longer reacting to the room reacts to you. That reversal is everything. Some will test you harder now, hoping to pull you back into old patterns. They may provoke, guilt trip, or label you cold, distant, or changed. Let them. Labels are the language of people who lost access. When you stop negotiating your boundaries, people either respect them or remove themselves. Both outcomes work in your favor. You're also learning that not every conflict requires engagement. Strategic withdrawal is power, not avoidance. Walking away without explanation unsettles those who expected emotional labor from you. It denies them closure, leverage, and control. And nothing frustrates manipulators more than someone who cannot be pulled into reaction. This step is where your internal authority solidifies. You stop asking yourself if you're allowed to take space, to say no, to move differently. You already decided your standards, and standards don't beg for approval. They exist, and others either rise to meet them or fall away. That separation is not loss, it's filtration. As this becomes natural, you'll notice something subtle but profound. People begin to seek your reaction instead of ignoring it. They hesitate before crossing lines they once ignored. They listen more closely when you speak because you don't speak carelessly. You didn't demand respect. You made disrespect expensive. This is the stage where power becomes effortless. Not because life gets easier, but because you stop leaking energy into places that never deserved it. Your focus sharpens, your presence deepens, and your tolerance for nonsense evaporates. You're no longer trying to win every interaction. You're choosing which interactions deserve you at all. And from here on, the transformation accelerates. The more consistently you hold this frame, the less resistance you encounter. People adapt quickly to strength that doesn't need validation. You're no longer asking the world how to move. You're showing it. This is not arrogance. This is alignment. And once alignment is felt, it cannot be unseen, unfelt, or undone. By now, something inside you should feel uncomfortable. Not angry, not inspired, unsettled, because the truth isn't meant to feel good. It's meant to wake you up. Up until this point, you've probably started noticing patterns you once ignored, how people speak to you, how quickly they dismiss you, how easily they assume you'll comply. That's not coincidence. That's positioning. And whether you realize it or not, you've been positioned as someone safe to overlook. Here's the brutal reality most people never accept. Respect is not given to those who deserve it. It's given to those who demand it without asking. The world doesn't reward fairness. It rewards certainty. And certainty doesn't come from explaining yourself. It comes from acting like your time, energy, and presence already have value. You've been taught the opposite. You were taught to justify, to soften, to negotiate your worth like it's up for debate. It's not. Think about how often you explain your decisions. Not because you want to, but because you feel you owe people comfort. You say sorry when you're not wrong. You overclarify when a simple no would have been enough. You fill silence because you're afraid it might make others uneasy. Every one of those habits signals the same thing. You're trying to be accepted, not respected. Powerful people do the opposite. They speak less, not more. They don't rush to defend themselves. They don't argue to be understood. They allow misunderstandings to exist if correcting them costs authority. When someone questions them, they don't panic, they pause. That pause does more damage than any explanation ever could, because silence forces others to project their own uncertainty onto you. And uncertainty makes people cautious. Notice how dominance rarely announces itself. It doesn't shout. It doesn't convince. It doesn't beg. It stands still while others adjust. When you stop reacting, people reveal themselves. They talk too much. They overplay their hand. They expose their motives. And suddenly, you're no longer chasing control, you're observing it. This is where most people fail. They think power is about winning arguments, proving intelligence, or being morally right. It's not. Power is about setting the tempo. The person who controls the pace controls the interaction. When you move slowly, others rush. When you stay calm, others destabilize themselves. When you don't explain, others start explaining to you. And without realizing it, they've handed you the higher ground. Understand this clearly. People don't follow logic, they follow emotional gravity. They gravitate toward whoever feels solid, whoever isn't trying to please, whoever doesn't need approval to exist confidently. The moment you stop trying to manage how people feel around you, something shifts. You become unpredictable, and unpredictability creates respect because it removes leverage. Look back at your life honestly. How many times have you been taken for granted not because you're weak, but because you were too available? How many times did people cross lines because you never enforced them? Boundaries aren't loud. They're enforced through consistency, not confrontation. When people realize you won't chase, won't argue, won't beg to be understood, they start recalibrating how they treat you. This is the turning point. Not when you become aggressive, not when you become cold, but when you become selective. Selective with your energy, selective with your words, selective with your reactions. You don't need to dominate everyone, just refuse to be dominated. You don't need to threaten, just remove access. Absence is louder than anger, and restraint is more intimidating than force. Here's what separates the dangerous from the desperate. Dangerous people don't need immediate validation. They let outcomes speak. They let silence stretch. They let people wonder. And while others are busy trying to be liked, they're quietly becoming untouchable. Not because they're feared, but because disappointing them suddenly feels costly. If you've made it this far, you're starting to feel it. That internal shift. The realization that power isn't something you acquire. It's something you stop giving away. And once you stop leaking it through over-explanation, over-availability, and emotional reactions, people feel the difference immediately. They might not say it, but they adjust. And adjustment is the first sign of respect. This is the last threshold, the point where everything you've learned either becomes real power or fades back into theory. Up to now, you've been sharpening awareness, boundaries, frame control, and silence. But this step is about embodiment. Power is no longer something you think about. It's something people feel the moment you enter a room. At this level, you don't explain yourself, you don't chase clarity, and you don't seek closure from anyone who couldn't see your value without it. The strongest people stop trying to be understood and start being undeniable. They don't correct every misconception, because correction is a form of chasing. They let others misunderstand them, underestimate them, even doubt them, because time is a far more brutal truth teller than words. While others argue to protect their image, you move in silence and let results speak with a voice no one can interrupt. Here's the final psychological shift. You stop reacting emotionally and start responding strategically. Reaction gives people access to you, while response keeps you in control. When someone disrespects you, you don't explode or explain, you withdraw attention and adjust distance. Humans fear emotional removal more than confrontation, because it signals they've lost relevance in your world. At this stage, your presence becomes selective, and that selectivity creates gravity. You don't show up everywhere, you don't reply instantly, and you don't engage in every conversation. Your time becomes rare, and rarity always creates value. People begin to sense that access to you is earned, not guaranteed, and their behavior shifts accordingly. You'll notice something unsettling as this happens. Some people will drift away. They won't announce it loudly, but their energy will change because you no longer feed the dynamic they've benefited from. Let them go without bitterness, because loss at this level is purification, not punishment. Every person who leaves makes space for alignment, clarity, and strength. This is where fear-based respect quietly forms. not fear of aggression, but fear of losing access to your calm, your validation, and your presence. People measure their words around you because they know you don't tolerate nonsense. They step carefully because you don't chase reconciliation. Your standards are silent, but unmistakable. The final lesson is this: power is consistency under pressure. Anyone can act strong when things are calm, but true dominance shows when you stay composed while others panic. You don't rush decisions, you don't overreact to insults, and you don't beg for loyalty. You let consequences do the work that arguments never could. When you live like this, life responds differently. Opportunities approach you instead of you chasing them. People listen more closely because you speak less. And respect stops being something you ask for. It becomes something people offer instinctively, without knowing why. This is the end of the story and the beginning of a different way of moving through the world. Not louder, not crueler, but colder, clearer, and more intentional. If this final step connected with you, if it sharpened something inside you, don't let it end here. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay close, because the next lessons go even deeper, and only those ready for real power should follow.